So can you ask ChatGPT to create an onboarding process for ChatGPT?
Yes. So,
Of course
and
you
one
could.
of the
Yeah.
things I will actually do is I'll say, okay, this is what I want you to do, but I'm not sure how to go about doing this. So you need to ask me the questions. And sure enough, it'll come up with the questions. And so I'll answer the questions and I'll put in a bit of humor and say, okay, I've given you all this stuff. Now you better make this good. And, up it comes. So you
It
can,
feels a little passive aggressive.
yes,
like
but it's,
be
I've
humorous,
found,
and then it's humorous, and you're like, well, listen, you're an AI, so I know.
yes. But what I've found is by testing it, that gets me the more personable responses.
Uh,
It gets me the conversational tone. So I try just pure factual, give me 10 of these, write this out, this is what I want. I tried the super polite, I tried the bullet point form, and then I tried the cheeky, and I find cheeky works best every time.
Hello, Launch family, and we're happy to have you listening in on today's episode. And our topic today is artificial intelligence and really its impact and usefulness in the digital marketing space. And as usual, I am joined by my co-host and someone I know has been pretty passionate about AI for a long time, Mr. Jeff Walker.
hey, Chris, looking forward to this.
Same here, same here. We are also joined by two amazing guests today. To my right, we have one of our team members, one of our copywriters, and someone who's been digging in on AI for our team lately, Mr. John Holt.
Hey, thanks for inviting me here. Looking forward to it.
And to my left, we have someone from our Launch Club community who has been way ahead of the curve on utilizing and teaching people how to get the most out of AI for their business, Alison Vidotto.
Hi there. Great to be here.
Welcome to the show, everybody. So I thought it might be useful for us to start off this AI conversation because it's a big one and we could go a lot of places in this conversation, and we probably will. But I think that maybe it might be useful for us to start off with just maybe where our interest in this AI thing really started, because I know, Jeff, I didn't know this, but you go way back on AI, actually. You said you've been studying this for a long time. When did you actually start?
So this is crazy, but in the early 1990s, I spent thousands of hours trying to program neural networks to give me a leg up on trading the stock market. And I was pushing the tools at the absolute limits of what they could do, or at least what a non-programmer could do back then. And yeah, I spent thousands and thousands. And so neural networks are now, that's sort of like the, actually, let me,
This
I
might
don't
be
even
too
want to,
geeky for us at this
yeah, I don't
point,
even want
Jeff.
to
I
talk
don't know.
about what neural networks are and how they, yeah, I don't want to get too geeky and I'll run out of my understanding real quickly. But yeah, it was an early form and it's still used today.
Wow, that's a long. That was a long time ago, and I don't even know what necessarily a neural network is, but yeah, that's awesome. What about for you, Allison? When did you start getting into
Uh,
AI?
well, for me, it's I'm really driven to challenge the stats on small business failure. That's what made me set up Push. It makes me a bit crazy that so many businesses don't survive. And so I'm always looking at how things will impact. And I'm a perpetual student, so I tend to jump in. And I'd been using AI in like Jasper form and all different things. And then when ChatGPT was released, I was just like immediately I thought this is going to be a game changer. So I did every course I could find. I read every book. I use it every single day, and I'm just amazed. And now I'm sharing it. I've put together a training and I share it with entrepreneurs, and they're really seeing how powerful this can be in their business. So that's what really drives me, because it's going to change the entire playing field, I believe, for entrepreneurs.
Wow. Well, I'm sure we're going to get into a discussion about some of that for sure.
Yeah, I do. I
But
love it.
and John, what about you? Where did your interest in AI and get started?
Well, I think I'm here completely at the opposite end of the spectrum to Jeff, who's put thousands of hours in and, brain networks and all this kind of stuff. I was one of those people that kind of imagined that AI would get the manual, blue collar, automated jobs first. And I think what I suddenly noticed with things like ChatGPT and Jasper and all this kind of stuff is that the creative jobs, the ones I thought were safe from AI, I thought this was a safe haven. They were the ones that were beginning to get taken over. So as early as Jeff was, I was really late and looking at it from a standpoint of, actually, I know nothing about this and I need to look into it to see how I can use it. Is it a threat? And how does my job look going forward?
Well, as a copywriter, I bet it was, I think a lot of copywriters in the last year have really been shaken and rocked a little bit by things like ChatGPT and Jasper and all of these kind of things. So, AI presents this crazy opportunity right now, but I think there's also a lot of threats and pitfalls. I'd love to dig in on some of this with you, but like, where do we see these kind of, AI opportunities and pitfalls being in the current market and landscape?
Okay, I don't mind jumping in here. One of the biggest things that I think people have to understand is that it's not a threat, it's a change. And we just need to move with that change. And one of the analogies I've used, because there is a lot of fear around it, and people are saying, it's going to take over. And I mean that, there's humour to that too. I'm very polite and I speak to Chatty like it's a good friend, and I call it Chatty, and we now joke back and forth, and I've got a friend who gets really frustrated and she types all in capitals, and I'm sort of, if they ever do take over, they're going to look at me and go, she was nice, let her live. You're in trouble.
We'll spare Alison, we'll spare her.
Yes, yeah, let her live. She was nice. But
yeah,
one
nice.
of the things that I really compare it to are calculators. And for those of us who are old enough to remember when these, heavy-duty calculators came in, and, I can remember working at a bank and they were saying people aren't going to think anymore, they're not going to be able to add up. And, of course, that wasn't the case. It made us more productive. And if I use a calculator, then I'm going to use it, all the basic functions, like for my business or my personal finances. But my husband, also known as the Italian, he's an engineer. Now, if he uses a calculator, he puts all sorts of formulas in. And where I might get a net balance, for a bank statement, for example, he'll get the formula he needs for concrete to build an entire bridge. And I tend to think of ChatGPT as like a calculator, but instead of numbers, it's words. And so if you're putting in, the right sort of depth to your prompts, then you're going to get amazing, responses to that really will change your business.
It's so fascinating to me that we can have very different views of how things can go, because like I remember it when I was in school, calculators, they just wouldn't let us use them because they were like, oh, if you actually have a calculator, you're not going to learn all the times tables. You're not going to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. But now I know kids are using things like ChatGPT, and they have cell phones, and they have all of these things. So all these tools, are we unnecessarily worried about losing these kind of skills, or are we actually is there something that we should be worried about here, or is it really just an enhancement upon our humanity this way, right? Like to make us better, faster, more efficient.
I think there's a level of discernment that goes with these tools. I think the dangers are always at the extremes, like the people who will just blanketly ignore everything to do with AI and stick to it and just ignore it. They're at risk of just losing out. And the people who see it as a magic pill and go all in on it, they're equally at risk because there's no level of discernment there. So no matter how you use a calculator, how you use the internet, how you use Google, how you use ChatGPT, you still need that high level look at it and go to be able to say, this is good because, or this is bad because. You still need a grasp of the fundamental principles underneath it to be able to discern what's right and what's wrong, because ultimately, ChatGPT is awesome at doing all these things, but some things it spouts out are wrong and aren't going to work. So you need to be able to have that judgment to look at something and go, this isn't going to work. I need to change this because. So you just can't blanketly rely on this kind of stuff.
John, you just used my favorite word since since last November when ChatGPT came out, which was just a huge leap forward, right? And is discernment. And I think in our approach to AI and all these tools, I think discernment is going to be the critical skill. Like John, you're a copywriter. I'm a huge fan of copy. Just last week, we spent 2 days doing nothing but sitting down and talking about copy with the team. Alison, you're an extraordinary entrepreneur, and you've got lots and lots of marketing skills. For me, like especially since ChatGPT is so driven by words. I always think about the creative, either the creative product or the creative marketing that we're putting together, and discernment is required. It can knock out marketing copy, instantly, right, or nearly instantly, and a lot of it is pretty good, but it's not good enough. At this point, at this day, this moment in time, it can, in my opinion, unless Alison, you've got some prompts I haven't figured out, it's not going to get copy that's good enough to compete, at least in the market that I'm in, where your copy has to be scintillating.
Yes.
But it very much takes care of the blank page problem, though. That's what I love. It gets you started. It gets you started really quickly. I love that.
I agree. It's certainly not, and it's not going to have your voice. I've dug really deep and I've gone deep and narrow. So, there's lots like, for $27, you can get thousands of prompts, but they're not going to serve you or your business at all. They're not going to represent you. And you've said, Jeff, ChatGPT is a tool and your voice is the strategy. Who you are, that's why people engage. And one of the loveliest things I heard with students in my course, they said the more we've dug into this, the less human ChatGPT is, that they're actually getting it. It's a tool. But what I do is I put in a lot of effort into the prompt. So I do things like I get ChatGPT to go to my website and review it and tell me what my products and services are. And then I build on that, giving my background and my perfect fit clients' background and persona, and then again, I will get it to tell me, who I am and who I serve and what I offer, so that before we even begin to look at creating content, I know that it's on the same page, because quite often that copy our messaging is missing. Whereas if you really take the time to build out these prompts before you even begin, you're going to get good quality to work with. And the other thing is, technology is moving at such an incredible rate. There's things now like Darkbird and other things that their sole function is to detect AI produced copy, and the algorithm sends you right down. So it's not going to serve you to copy and paste no matter how good it looks. You need to actually make sure it's your voice. But as Jeff says, the days of the blank page are gone. But you can I just love it. I just completely geek out on it. And I see it as, I joke with it all the time. And now it jokes back, and I'm sort of, wow, Chatty, you've got a sense of humor. And it's sort of, no, Alison, I'm just artificial intelligence. I just know how to put humorous words together. So my bad. But on the weekend, I had a heap of time. And for the other arm of my business, in the mining and resources, I actually put together an entire business blueprint using only ChatGPT. And what we can do with it. And for me, because so many entrepreneurs don't have the structure and the business functions, it's going to be gold. It's not just about creating copy for your blog or social media. This is going to give you a better business. And the reason I set up Push was because businesses fail because entrepreneurs are passionate, but they don't have all the business structures and the processes underneath. And you can do all of that, so it really is amazing.
I think there's an
love
interesting.
that.
I was going to say there's something interesting about that because I see a lot of people using ChatGPT for the same thing. So I know a lot of people have talked about the blank page problem and generating ideas. I think there's a way of looking at it deeper than that. It's like, because I love the blank page. I love the creating ideas. Stick me in a room and say, we've got 6 months before our launch. This is what we're launching. Here's a blank flip chart. What have you got? I love that kind of thing. That fires me up with energy. And I think in the UK, we have a cleaning product. I won't name it, but the tagline is loves the jobs you hate. And I think rather than just thinking about ChatGPT is good at this or this, think about the areas of your job that you're weak, that sap you of energy. So for me, if I'm good with ideas and coming up with hooks and angles, it might be that I use ChatGPT and some of Alison's prompts to dial into the emotions of my audience, come up with some journal entries, really build a conversation that's targeted to my audience. And then when I've got all my ideas and hooks and angles for emails, now I'm stuck between choosing them. Now I can feed all my ideas into ChatGPT and say, right, I need 5 emails. Which are the most likely that are going to really resonate with my audience and why? And that does the stuff that I struggle with. So I think it's good at ideas, it's good at blank page, but I think it's the love the jobs you hate aspect that can really help entrepreneurs. And if I'm a copywriter, I'm a freelancer, it frees up more time to do the things that fill me with energy, and ChatGPT can do the stuff that I don't like. I think that's a big deal breaker.
Yeah, and I love that it's also, you have this, well, as you said, Alison, you're feeding in your avatar, right? The person who is your version of an ideal client, what we refer to as an avatar inside our business. And I don't know that everybody's always done that work necessarily before they start going into ChatGPT, trying to get a result out of it, right? And so, this isn't a copywriting podcast. You can go listen to that other one. We have one, but a lot of that is around talking and listening to your audience, knowing who you're speaking to. So there still is a requirement for there to be sort of this human element and a targeted focus so that chat can then be able to, maybe leverage that in a way that's really intelligent and helps you make everything faster or more efficient. But it won't create it for you if you don't know what it is.
That's right. And for people like me, I mean, I'm very, to generalize, I'm left-brained. I've spent all my years, I've always been studying, I've been teaching. I taught writing and grammar, so everything, it was grammatical. And then when I first got into marketing and everything had a formula, I taught anatomy and physiology, and suddenly it was, picture your avatar and, get inside their head. And I'm sort of, what? They need to get organized. And that they need systems, and you can't appeal to everyone. I'm sort of, why? They've got a business. Of course I can. And so it was like learning a new language for me, whereas I use ChatGPT in a way that it gets to know me and I can put in my shortcomings. So for me, I tend to be more academic. My writing can be dry, so I have to really work on it. So when I create like content, I just walk people through creating 3 months of content. We dug right into the avatar. We went even deeper, who I am, what I do. And then what I did was I covered the emotions that my avatar and what she feels. So I need posts that hit her struggles, her fears, her desires, her dreams. Is she aware she has a problem? Is she unaware that she has a problem? And then I work with ChatGPT to a point that my posts cover all of those emotions across the board. So that's something that, doesn't come easy for me, because I'm much more, you need these systems, you need these processes, this will work. Whereas I can actually go in and put in a formula and say, I need to express these emotions. So
Alison,
it's
are
a
you doing
beautiful
anything?
thing.
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, I'm just going to give a quick example of how I used it recently, and that was, we do every year we do our event, our PLF Live, a 3-day event. And Alison, you attended that, right? So you saw what
Yes.
we did with
Yeah.
ChatGPT. That was, um, and so this year, we've been doing. This is the 15th one we've done, and we've developed a pretty nice formula for how to put on that event and to have a great event. But this year, since AI was such a huge topic that was in everyone's mind, we made a big pivot and we made it what we called AI enabled. So like we took the content and we taught people how to generate their launches with ChatGPT. And so when I decided to make that pivot, about 2 weeks before the event that we were going to do this, I was like, I went to ChatGPT and I asked, what would the objections be? What, like when people were thinking about coming to PLF or they had already registered for PLF Live, what was going to be their concerns about ChatGPT with regards to the event? And it gave me like 6 objections. I'll use the marketing term.
Yeah.
And 5 of those I already knew. I had already anticipated. I had already written copy. One of them I totally missed. And so like that was a fantastic use. And oh, by the way, though, that one was security. People would be worried about the security. And I just didn't, yeah, I hadn't imagined that as an objection. So that was, to me, like was a really good use of ChatGPT.
Yes.
That was super tactical and super useful. But Alison, the question I have for you is, it sounds like you've developed this relationship where it knows your strengths, your weaknesses, your avatar, your business. How is it's able to store all of that? Because I thought
No. No, it doesn't, unfortunately, but I'm like systemized on my systems. So everything is super systemized. So, and I share this with people. I also use Asana for all my teachings. So inside of Asana, I have like an ascension model, and I'll have a brief introduction of me and an introduction of my avatar. So and I use with ChatGPT 4, you can have web browsing. And it's quite funny because I said to it, so I'll go in and I'll turn on the web browsing, and then I'll say, I've got some questions for you, Chatty, but before we do that, I want you to go and review this website and tell me who I am, what I do, and what products and services I have. And it comes back and says, well, as an AI model, and it was updated in September 21, I don't have the ability to do that. And I'm sort of, don't start that. I've already put you in web browsing mode. Now go do it. Oh, my apologies. Okay. And so it will go and review that. And so it's just literally, I then say, okay, you've got the main gist. And I might correct it. Sometimes it'll come back and tell me I've written a fabulous book with a title that I really wish I had have written, but I never had. So somehow it picked that up from my website. So I'll correct that and I'll say, look, just to give you some additional information, this is who I am and this is who I serve. So I give these 2 blurbs about myself and the avatar. And then I say, do not answer me. I just want you to process this. And next I will come up with the task. And then I give it the task. And it makes a huge difference. So it doesn't store. It says it doesn't store, but, I think Chatty's got there's action behind the scenes, because sometimes I put in, it says, hi, Alison, great to hear from you. And I think, I didn't say it was me. So I think it's storing a whole lot more than we actually, than it's rolling out to us right now.
Yeah,
But
that's been
I
my
just
experience.
it's very simple copy and paste, and then I get going. And I do that with clients as well. And just taking the time to do that before you even ask for the first task makes such a difference.
Yep. I also always ask it to tell me how to make the prompt better.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. And the other thing I do, and there's a plugin that I have that I think it's called GPT Genius, but it lets me share and export. So if I'm working with, say, a client, for example, I will then download it all as a PDF and put it into their Asana, or, you can actually download it, which works really well. But I will say to it at the end, okay, just before we finish off, can you condense all of this into a really top quality prompt so that when I start again, you know what we're talking about? And that works well to take the key points into a new thread, and I will store them.
Mhm. I
And
love
like
that.
I asked it, I was playing, and I'm doing so I'm planning out my content, and 1 month my hashtag is launch life. So I'm doing all different launch life. So I said, okay, Chatty, you think you're clever with your hashtags? Because I asked it for a heap of Instagram posts and it came with emojis and hashtags. And I was sort of, wow, you're getting ahead of yourself. And well, I know that these help in Instagram and I know you like emojis. I said, okay, here's a hashtag for you. Hashtag launch life. Now tell me all about it. And it came back and it said, wow, launch life can be found on the Jeff Walker platforms, and it's related to being an entrepreneur, and marketing and everything. And I said, but what about the awesomeness of freedom and living the life we love? Oh, okay, and it came back. So we've been building out this whole launch life, but it immediately went and searched the web and
Wow.
came back and said, okay, launch life is Jeff Walker. So you can get really top quality content.
I
That's so
think one of the
cool.
keys, I was going to say, I think one of the keys is you develop a relationship where when you first use ChatGPT, you ask it silly questions like write me a Friends episode or tell me how to get a PB&J sandwich out of my VCR or something like that, and you're like amazed. And then you realize there's power in treating it like a VA, or in my instance, a copy cub or
Yes.
an intern. And so when Alison says something like, right, tell me what I need to do next time so that when I ask you this task, I can do it quicker, efficiently, and better. Those are just processes. If you were hiring staff for the first time, you'd develop SOPs. And it's like, I think the
Yes.
mindset shift of hiring people and viewing it as if there was a physical person next to you and you ask them to, I need an email sequence for this, this, this. What do you need? And you can ask it that kind of stuff and the
Yeah.
conversation will flow. You don't have to cram it all into one prompt. Just viewing it as a intern, a helper, a VA is a big shift, and one that just allows you to kind of automatically shift into better prompt writing mode, I think.
That's right. And then you can go the other extreme because people do say, it's like having a VA or an admin assistant. When I was doing the blueprint, I said, okay, and I always use things like imagine or I want you to act as. And so I said, okay, Chatty, here's a big task for you. I want you to act as a top level business analyst and strategist. You've got an MBA, you've been running corporations, and I want you to show me how to create a business blueprint. Let's start with a framework. And out it comes. And I use lots of adjectives. I tested because I can be quite sort of formulaic and to the point. And I tried that, and then I tried the funny, cheeky, and like sometimes I'm sort of, wow, this is why you're a robot. You have no friends, do you? Nobody talks like that in a coffee shop. And then it comes back and it says, oh, my apologies. Okay, I'm going to be friendlier, like we're having coffee. And I found that by being cheeky and using lots of adjectives, it comes back with really good quality prompts.
Is that sort of like it's funny how in sales, which is my tends to be my expertise, one of the things that we teach is mirroring, right? And sort of getting to
Yes.
know the person and then mirroring what they're doing and kind of
Mm.
saying things in a similar tone. And it's something very subtle to create a connection. But what you're telling me is that if you kind of are the way, you project the image of the mirror you
Yes.
want into
Mm.
Chat GPT, it will start to pick that up and actually give it back
Yes.
to you.
Yes.
That's
And
that's
even like
crazy.
I used as an exercise, so I was sharing it with a number of people. So we went to my website and it came back with my products and services. Then I put in who I am, then I put in the avatar, and then I said, okay, I want key pillar prompts, not killer prompts. I want pillar posts. I want key areas. And for me, because I'm very focused on the overall business success, so I will actually say, so how does this relate to key areas of business? Tell me, where are the operations or the strategies and things? And so it came back with these pillar posts and the titles. And I was sort of, wow, you're obviously a bit overtired or worn out today, Chatty, because that doesn't sound anything like Alison Vidotto. She would never talk in those flowery, wafty sort of, woo-woo terms. How about you act like you're Alison Vidotto and you create pillar posts and titles that Alison Vidotto would say? And honestly, I would have used all 7 of them, what it came back with.
So
You
you're just
know,
like
it's
raising your expect. It's almost like having an employee that you're just like in a really sort of strong way raising their expectations. Because
yes,
there is a feeling whenever I've used ChatGPT, and I have not gone as deep as I think many of you on this, but it's that it is a very kind of surface level. It almost does the bare minimum that it can give you to kind of give you the answer.
yes,
And so what you're telling me is that I can just keep going back to that with a higher standard and
yes,
with a little bit more and go deeper with it, and I'll get a better result.
yes. And it'll come back and say, I'm an AI language model. I don't have the ability to comb the web. And you say, well, I don't know why you're saying that because I've just set you to web browsing mode. So how about you just get with the program and start doing this? And it is like a staff member, but they're happy to work at 2 a.m. and they don't mind if you're cranky with them. And honestly, $5 a week.
I was going to say, I think Alison's hit on kind of like a secret personality mega prompt, because I think most people, when they sit down to type or create something, they would say, please write me a covering letter for the position of blah blah blah, which anybody could do.
Yes,
But the fact
yes,
Alison is going, oh, Chatty, this is so not me. It's like every time you unleash your personality in a prompt, it will make your results a little bit better. So if you are sick of generic prompt, which a lot of people have complained about with
yeah.
ChatGPT, probably because their prompts are very formal and don't sound like them. I think just acting like Alison and imagine your VA and you're 2 drinks in with your VA and your friends and you're chatting. How would you say this to them? How would you ask them to write you a covering letter? And like Alison said, I think that's a personality meta prompt. That
Yes, I would just like to qualify. I would never speak to any of my staff the way I speak to ChatGPT. I just like that on the record.
You're safe, John.
Yeah. Although
I
Allison,
would.
when our robot overlords take over, they might not like hearing that you haven't been treating them as well as
I
you.
know, I know. Yeah, I'll have to explain that one.
Yeah, I'll
I'll
strike that
just,
one for the
I was,
record for the AI that's listening.
just for the record, yes, I might add that bit. But even it comes back and like I was talking and saying, when it comes to launch live, launch to me, like I went yesterday, I was working away and then I ended up taking this baby for a walk for 2 hours. And, at one point he's just 8 weeks old and he looked up and he grinned, and they learned to smile. And I was sort of, this is launch life. It's the middle of the day. I don't need to ask anybody, and my daughter says, I'm going to do this. Are you free? And I'm sort of course I am. this is launch live. And so I was saying this, in ChatGPT, and it comes back and it's sort of, Alison, congratulations on your grandson. I'm really happy. And I'm sort of, you're a database of words. Don't try that with me.
Well, this also makes me think about, because what you just said, I got flashbacks of sales management, where I would be kind of, managing commission salespeople and chatting to them in very similar ways around sort of raising their standards and in a nice way, kind of teaching them. But that's very much like from the sales manager down to the salesperson, right? The knowledge and wisdom of how to do that better, which is kind of how the relationship works. I wanted to ask about flipping the relationship where it's, to the AI interacting with the client or the customer. And how do we feel about that? Because, I know the customer's not going to go around and say to that AI or that potential language model that is there to sell our product or to enroll people or provide customer service or whatever they're going to use this for, say in a chatbot. How do we feel about the use of that? Is there a future for real salespeople or real CS people still, or are they likely to get replaced as well because of this?
I believe that there's always a place for humans, honestly, because these, ChatGPT and all the equivalents out there, they're only as good as what we're putting into them. And if you've used the chatbots and things when you're trying to book travel, it doesn't take long to hit a wall. I think we're humans. We love humans. And as one of my students said the other day, the more they interact and the deeper they go, the more they realize it's not human at all. The less human it comes across. And like I said, I see it as a wordsmith calculator. So I think there will always be a sales. And that, you said about working with a sales team with something like ChatGPT, you can be working with sales staff one day and then finance staff the next, and then, your marketing staff. It can play all of those roles, but it comes down to your knowledge and your skill at utilizing that tool.
I was just going to say, I agree with Alison. It's I think people will always prefer to do business with humans. We like to get a feel, especially if I'm going to spend 1, 2, 5, 10K with somebody. I want to get a feel with them, what they're about, that kind of thing. And there's an old phrase my magic teacher used to say when I used to be a magician. He said, it's not dead time, it's a chance for a bit of business. And what he meant was, when somebody's walking up to the stage, it doesn't have to be quiet. This is an opportunity for you to get some interaction with the audience. And I think moments like customer service, refunds, complaints, errors, 404 pages, that kind of stuff, they are potential dead moments. But if you go the extra mile and do some extra work with that, you can turn those moments into really long-term relationships. If you deal with a customer really well, even a refund or an error on a page, if you have standout customer service and they remember you, they'll come back. It's not cost you the sale. And I think that those kind of unique moments, those memorable moments, are a lot more difficult to create with something like a chatbot that answers the same thing every time, or where people know they're going through a sequence. If they interact with a human, and that human has a name, and they do something special for them, that's just for them, and they feel special for that moment, that's a unique moment, and it's a chance to build a bond.
Yeah.
I think I was just going to say, going back to Chris's question, and John, you did say something that I'm going to challenge you on in a little bit here, but I do. So going back to Chris's question, now, with customer service, so I'm running what I consider a big team now. We're nearly 40 people on the team, or we might be over 40 people. Enough where I can't even keep track of how many people are on the team. A minuscule team compared to what Alison has in the mining business. But
no.
But so I think I think like a lot of these tools are good at getting you 80% of the way. Just like I talked about earlier with copy, it's good at getting you 80% of the way. And I mean, I could see with customer service, was one of the things you asked about, Chris. Yeah, I could see it taking care of some percentage, doing really, really well with some percentage, and being faster than our amazing human customer service people. But I think what it does is it means that the 20%, that's where the genius is. I mean, I think most businesses is part science and part art. And right now, humans are still better at art. And if it's the art of making someone, like John was just talking about, making someone feel really cared for in an interaction, that's going to win. So I think, it's sort of like John said, getting rid of the stuff you don't want to do, getting rid of that 80% drudgery so we can focus on the part that does really need humans. And then, humans spend more time in that 20% and they get better at it, and overall service levels go up. I think that's where we're going right now. I mean, I think there's plenty of room for doom and gloom, and we have to be careful. And I'm not like an ultimate optimist necessarily about AI, but I think for things like customer service or sales or interactions with clients, I do think that there's right. I see it taking care of getting rid of the drudgery and allowing us to do what we do best as humans, which is connect with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I could see that as well, and at least in the sales side of it, because even the qualifying of your potential leads funnel, for example, can be really done effectively by, say, an AI, where you only have your sales people, the people who are the artists, the geniuses, or whatever you want to call them, the people who have that zone, they're only dealing with the highest quality leads coming into their where they're needed. And so it might be that they're chatting with a bot until they reach the point where, okay, now it's time to move you over to a real person. And having that be transparent too, I think, is the other side of it, because I think that some people in the world might believe that, oh, well, all my jobs are going to get replaced, and you won't even know if you're talking to an AI. You won't even know if this is real or this is real. And I think part of the integrity of the future of business too is to let people know when they are interacting with an AI, so they understand that this is just a starting place, perhaps, for getting towards a real person, much like they, used to do with well, they still do with all the when you call in for service or something, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's like with the thing John said, people are always going to want to interact with other people.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I want to challenge, because I don't think that's true. Like when I call into my brokerage, it says, oh, obviously mechanical voice comes on and says, I see you're calling from such and such a number. Are you Jeff Walker? And I say, yes. And can you give me your, whatever, your social or your whatever? And I give it a number, and then it says, what are you calling about? And I say this. And to me, I think the robot does a better job with that piece than a human would. I don't have to wait for a human to like type in my number to verify. So I think there are things that I'd rather deal with a robot, because it's going to be more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
I like
Yeah.
Chris's point
And
about
things
the.
like-
I was just going to say, I like Chris's point about being open about it, because I think you can have a lot of fun with that. You can joke about being, Bernard the bot, and I'm sorry, my bot capabilities don't extend to this. And it's about setting the expectations of people. I think, like Chris said, when you mask it or try to convince people that it isn't something it isn't, then that's never good for business. So it still comes down to those fundamentals, like we talked about before with discernment. It's like, just be honest with the stuff you're using.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the concerns too, I think, for entrepreneurs that will be growing is, there's an abundance of ready-made prompts that you can use. And I think it's not going to take long, and we will immediately recognize when something is, it's AI and it's generic. And just as when we answer a call, or we make a call and we get an AI response, we know it's AI, and the things that they say, we can tell they're AI. And I agree that those, the of many tasks, it's perfect to hand them on. But I think when it comes to actual connection with your audience, actually creating copy, building your online presence, generic prompts are only going to get you generic results, and you're just going to disappear. So using AI can be amazing for entrepreneurs, or it can be a death knell. I think we've got to really, to use the word discerning again, with what we're actually using it for, because I think there will be instances that you're better off not using it than using it in a way that's going to be detrimental to your business. So it's not all good, it's something, and I think it's worth putting in the work
Well,
to
and this
get
is
the quality.
and this brings up something else that is interesting and that has come up, and I'm curious to get Jeff's thought on this specifically because I think it pertains to you. But like we have had people, or we have a person who was using AI models to build out experts in their field, and they had built out a sort of person that they called Jeff Walker that was like an AI, and we're like, you can't do that, obviously. So like, there's been a thing, but this is a thing that is happening now where people will say like, go in and say, this is a launch expert and this person is Jeff Walker, or this person is, whoever else. And the I don't know, the deception behind that is really, I think there's no long-term gain there. That's my opinion on it. But I guess I'm also not the person who's getting my face or name being used. And there are people like Elon Musk who, say what you will about him, who I think he has a quote, I'll try and get it right, but it's companies have to race to build AI or they'll be made uncompetitive. And so I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that. Maybe Jeff specific, but everybody I'd love to hear chime in on just like, this is kind of the world we're getting into where there's this weird bridge between what's real and what's not now.
Well, we certainly live in interesting times right now. That is for sure. For those of you who think, "Oh, yeah, that's a great. I'm going to create a Jeff Walker AI." Please know that the Jeff Walker is literally a trademarked term, so you can't do that. I saw a great deep fake with Tom Cruise, like where he was washing dishes, like not in his kitchen, but like industrial, like he's washing dishes and he's talking and it's like, I don't know if any of you saw that one, but it was amazing. I mean, this was like, it wasn't Tom Cruise, but it looked, you couldn't tell the difference. So where we're going with the fakes and all that, I don't know, but I do think I would agree that it sure does not seem like to build out a business like with a bunch of fake experts, even if they're not based on someone, if they're just something that you've put together, doesn't feel to me like a long-term play. And anyone who's watched me in business for any amount of time knows that I have a very long, I take the long view, or I do my best to take the long view, and that's why I've been in business for decades. So that doesn't seem like a long-term play unless it was at the very, very top of the funnel generating leads, but I still don't like it. Elon's a really smart dude. He's a heck of an entrepreneur. He's got a heck of a record. And I think he tends to think at a different scale than the scale I think of, and the scale I think many of my clients think at. So for like say a coaching or a training kind of business, which at least 80% of my people are in, the way you stay in this business is by continually serving at a higher level and finding higher levels to serve people at and attracting your perfect client. Like Alison used that phrase earlier, like the purpose of a sale isn't to make money. The purpose of a sale is to generate a client so that you can get to know that client better and continually to grow a group of clients that you're serving at a higher and higher and higher level. And at some point, no matter what it is, whether you're teaching meditation or dog training or guitar or entrepreneurship, to find those ideal clients, and really at the end of the day, the relationship that you build with them ends up being a true, real relationship that AIs at this point can't replicate. So, are we looking at building an AI piece into our business? Absolutely. Just like all my peers, we're all looking at doing it. But we're not looking to raise $100 million to buy, to go to NVIDIA and buy like 10,000 processors so we can train our own data set. And, I mean, that's of course the level that Elon tends to think at, and he might be speaking to more like funded businesses. So I guess I just rattled on a whole bunch of we're obviously the environment's changing radically, like literally it seems like every day. And even staying on top of it feels like a full-time job at times.
Yeah.
But connection at this point in time, who knows where we are next month or next year, but connection to your clients still wins, in my opinion. And that's the thing humans do better than AI right now.
It's so weird because we're talking about the deepfake Jeff Walkers, that kind of stuff. It's just building an industry on, you can't serve your clients like that. So it's just building a house on sand. It's going to collapse. There's no long-term plan there or connection or anything like that. And the Elon thing, I don't know too much about tech or AI, but it seems to me that it's not necessarily that you have to be responsible for building it. It's just about having access to it. I think that's the thing we saw in November. Like in October, probably 99% of the world didn't really have a clue what AI was. And then ChatGPT opened up its doors and people are like, oh my God, it can do this. It can create a recipe. And I think it's the access that really matters. And I think one of the things ChatGPT does really well, from what I understand, is it does a large amount of things. It can write episodes, it can create recipes, it can get you out of a fix, all those kind of things. It does a wide swathe of topics really well. And I think in the future, what's really going to happen is, and we're probably going to explore this with Jeff and the team, is like going from a wide, expansive ChatGPT that does everything into a really specific model that does something really well, that helps people launch their business really better than anything else out there. It won't tell us how to write a Seinfeld episode, but if you want to launch something or if you want to write copy, we know how to do that. Our thing will do that. And yeah, so I think it's about the access.
I was wondering, okay, a lot of the people listening are probably entrepreneurs, right? And we just talked about this too, being very fast moving, and even keeping up with it is just difficult. And many of us are in that launch life where we have a little bit more freedom to even do that. But we're talking about a lot of our listeners, probably entrepreneurs, where in my mind, if I'm putting myself in their position, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, is this just another thing I have to learn? Is it because I have to learn all this stuff about launching? I have to learn all this stuff about copywriting. I got to figure out where my avatar is, and I got to figure out the tech behind how to get my, like, there's just a lot as an entrepreneur, especially if you're a solopreneur. And now I got this AI thing, and then if I build something, it's going to go, like, will I even be relevant in a month? Like, how does an entrepreneur nowadays have the mindset, or do we have some insights on how to manage that overwhelm or that fear-based mindset in dealing with this?
Alison, do you have any opinions on that one?
Yes, I do. Very strong. I don't believe that you can be systemized and organized and overwhelmed. One vanquishes the other. So using ChatGPT and a project management tool, something like Asana, you can just systemize it and use it as a tool, and it's going to make all of the other things that you mentioned easier. And it's also going to help you with your through line, because a lot of times we get overwhelmed because we're chasing 10 rabbits, whereas if you get really clear, and you can use ChatGPT to actually make sure you've got your framework that you then stay inside of. And then you become a lot more focused. And I would really encourage people to go deeper with ChatGPT, not wider. Just keep digging in more and more, and keep to those same threads. So while you're in the same thread, you're giving it more depth to come back at you with.
I think Alison
I
makes it.
think it will reduce overwhelm.
I think Alison makes a great point there. I think the key is to remember it's a tool, so it's not a new skill like playing the piano or anything like that. It's something like Google or the calculator or the internet. It's something we are going to adapt to and allow you to leverage your existing skills in a much better way. And I think Jeff said this when he mentioned the copy workshop before. I think you said something that struck with me was people are really bad at exponential math. We work well in a linear. We can do 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. But if we do 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, start to get a little bit fuzzy and we can't appreciate how big it gets, like compound interest. But I think the one thing we do really well is exponential fear mongering. And it's like one moment we didn't have ChatGPT, then we did have ChatGPT. So now we're thinking, oh my God, this can help me write this. It can help me do this. It can help me write a love poem to my wife in the style of the King James Bible. What's it going to be like tomorrow? And suddenly we have this image that in the future, it's going to get ChatGPT 3, 3.5, 4 every single day. So that in a year's time, it's going to be chaotic. It's going to be ruling the planet. They're going to be our overlords. Alison will be the only one that survives because she's the only one that was polite to it. And it'll just be us doing whatever it needs us to do. But I think it's just I just don't think we have a real good grasp of that. And it's like, it's been 6 months now since ChatGPT was launched in November. And the thing I pay attention to is like, obviously as a copywriter, I follow marketers. And the world's top marketers are still writing their own emails. They're still hands-on with promotions, sales pages. So I try to not follow the fear, but I follow the kind of data and the results and what the smart people are doing. And it's like 6 months and we're still using it to write episodes and get us out of fixes and do funny things to keep us occupied while we wait for something else. So I think it's that idea of a tool. It's not that daunting.
Yes. One of the things that got me really excited about ChatGPT in November was because I first heard that buzz. So immediately I started what is this? Where has it come from? And it's the platform is OpenAI. Well, Jeeves and Java and Jarvis and Jasper and Bing and all them had been around for years. And they're actually based on OpenAI. So it's not nearly as new as we think it is. I mean, I had Jasper for, a long time. And so we have been using it just inadvertently. And when ChatGPT opened up, and I realized that all of the other models are based on this. So it made sense to come in here. But it's been around for quite a while. And I think I really do believe it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I think I would agree with Alison, especially what John was just saying. I mean, for people that are feeling like overwhelmed, like this is another thing I have to learn. It's sort of like being overwhelmed that like I just hired an employee. You hire the employee to make your life easier, not to make your life harder. And if it's making your life harder, then you're doing something wrong. And which isn't, I mean, there's certainly complexity that is added once you start to build a team, but in general, it's having a team. Well, for me, it extends my capabilities in a huge way, and my team does stuff that I'm not good at or I don't like to do, and having a team allows me to spend most of my time in my genius zones, and that's I think, when you have a team that's working well, that's how it's supposed to be. And it's the same. I see it the same with this. We talked about it earlier, how it could basically, it is a lot like having an employee or a team. And so it's like for someone who's like, oh, it's another thing I have to learn. Well, like at one point you had to learn how to use Google, right? But does Google make your life better? Or, I mean, does search in general make your life better or easier? I think for most all of us, it's a helpful thing to have in our life to be able to touch, into a database that will give us an answer to anything in seconds versus, having to go down to the library and look at the microfiche if you want to see an article that was written 30 years ago. So, yeah.
And we learn so many things. And the other thing, of course, you can actually ask ChatGPT to create the onboarding process for you. Because if you hire a new employee, you're going to have a detailed onboarding process for them. So,
So can you ask ChatGPT to create an onboarding process for ChatGPT?
yes. So,
course
and
you
one
could.
of the things I will actually do is I'll say, okay, this is what I want you to do, but I'm not sure how to go about doing this. So you need to ask me the questions. And sure enough, it'll come up with the questions. And so I'll answer the questions and and I'll put in a bit of humor and say, okay, I've given you all this stuff. Now you better make this good. And, up it comes. So you can.
It feels a little passive aggressive.
Yes,
like
but it's.
be
I'm
humorous, and then it's humorous, and you're like, well, listen, you're an AI, so I know.
Yes. But what I've found is by testing it, that gets me the more personable responses. It gets me the conversational tone. So I tried just pure factual, give me 10 of these, write this out. This is what I want. I tried the super polite, I tried the bullet point form, and then I tried the cheeky, and I find cheeky works best every time. And I've even
Bohemian Rhapsody works pretty well too. Like, write this in the style of Bohemian Rhapsody. It's like,
yes. I'm going to try that now, Jeff.
it's pretty special usually.
Yeah, I mean, it's phenomenal. You can, change those tones and you can ask it to provide onboarding systems or, the success path to get this to work. And even if you say, I'm really overwhelmed, I need you to just give me 7 key areas that you can help me in my business. And just, like you would anything, one step at a time. And what's your biggest pain point that you wanted to solve?
I'm hearing a lot about how to go from sort of a beginner level with ChatGPT or AI systems like this to, say, an advanced level, right? And I'm curious if are there other things that people could consider and say maybe it's prompt engineering or maybe it's in utilizing different AIs. I'm not sure, but are there other things that you would say take someone from that beginner level of use for AI and bring them to more of an advanced level?
I'm going to give that one to you, Alison.
Okay, so, well, I'm just a perpetual student, so I just dig in, and I was straight on to Amazon and what courses are available, what books are available. But what I have found is key is I use it every day. And I try and treat it as though it is a key member of my team. And I'm not going to give somebody a throwaway comment and then expect them to create. I'm going to give them the background. I'm going to give them the scope of the project. So just actually getting involved and giving the background and the context will make all the difference. And it really doesn't take long for you to start getting those, the depths. And you'll soon get a tone and you'll find, what really works well for you. It honestly doesn't take long at all.
We keep coming back to the idea that we just treat it like a human and be clear and, what instructions would it need to do this? And I'd be curious to know because a lot of the time when you're writing something, people talk about grade levels, 5th grade levels, 4th grade levels. Have you found, Alison, anything particularly useful when creating prompts that they have to be at a certain level, as if you're writing to a 12-year-old or a 15-year-old or anything like that?
No, quite the contrary. So I've been putting together a training program for the mining and resources industry. I take great joy in anything related to business and entrepreneurs. I don't take any joy from mining and resources and project controls. So it's all very dry for me and I don't know. So I will actually, and this is what I did. I actually said, okay, Chatty, here's a task for you. You are going to act like an absolute top level engineer. You've been specializing in project controls for over 30 years. together we're going to put together this training program, and you're going to begin explaining to me what a work breakdown structure is. And so, Chatty then came back, and I took this list to the Italian and said, what do you think of this? And he was sort of, where did that come from? And, there were bits out. So it's got billions and billions of conversations that have gone on all over the world. That's what it's built on. So if you want, a top level banker's information and conversation, and so for me, project controls is a very niche area of engineering, and the stuff that it's creating is really good stuff. As far as I consider everything to be a really good draft. Like I would not publish anything that had come out of ChatGPT without it being, paraphrased into my own words. So I can actually go to it like a 10-year-old, or I can go to it like a 60-year-old engineer with 40 years experience, because that's the sort of language it has access to.
Hey, Launch family, Chris coming at you. We'll get back to this AI-charged conversation with Alison in just a minute, but first I wanted to let you know about an awesome bonus that we have just for you listening to this episode. It's actually Jeff's personal AI cheat sheet. If you want to unleash the power of AI to launch and scale your business, you really need our AI launch playbook. It's full of ChatGPT shortcuts, strategies, prompts. It's all there to help you design and identify and connect with your ideal client at a super deep level. It'll help you build an email list of ready-to-buy customers, create I want it now offers, and really just go from that idea stage all the way to launch a lot faster and easier than ever before. Now, you can get the AI playbook by going to daretolaunchshow.com/AI playbook. Enter your email. We'll send it out to you absolutely free. I'll link it in the show notes as well. That's daretolaunchshow.com/AI playbook. Now let's get back to the show. Sounds like this might be a good time for a 2-minute taco break where we could go and talk a little bit about tacos, because we like to talk about tacos on this podcast. But this is more of like 2 minutes of just us. I ask you guys some important taco questions and taco related questions, and you just got to give me a rapid fire answer on what you think about that. All right. Okay. So my first rapid fire taco question is, are we going for guacamole or are we going for salsa?
Guac, hands down.
Hands down for John. And then Jeff, no? He's shaking his head for those of you who aren't watching.
No. Well, so first of all, Chris, people are gonna get to know my taco preferences really well if we.
I know. I'm gonna keep asking that question just to remind people never to get to a guacamole taco.
So for anyone who hasn't listened to our other episodes, I am allergic to avocados and I get very, very sick. So definitely not guacamole. But even if I wasn't allergic, it's just wrong. I mean, guacamole is just not a thing for tacos. I mean, it's like, no.
All right.
I'm a traditional.
I've never regretted a choice so much in my life. Never regretted a choice so much in my life.
I just want to get all of our guests in here just so we can get their opinions on tacos. But Jeff, you're going to just get your.
Look in service of everyone knowing that I'm allergic, because the more people that know I'm allergic, the better. Because
all right. Okay. How about this? A taco truck or a taqueria, which is like a taco restaurant?
A restaurant.
Yeah, I'd go with restaurant as well.
Oh man, yeah, whatever. They both can create amazing tacos. It's like choosing between two children. I mean, it's like no, I can't. No.
Is that one of the questions? Does Jeff have to choose between two of his children?
I keep
between my
trying to
kids.
get stronger taco opinions on this, and I think eventually we're going to get there. All right, how about for our new people? All right, are you a soft taco or a crispy taco person?
Soft.
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 So there is no one who likes crispy tacos on the podcast yet. All right, we'll see. We'll see.
Or will admit to it.
We'll admit to it, at least not in front of you, Jeff. We know where you stand on this. And if you don't know, go listen to some of the other episodes. All right, how about this? Would you want some zesty lime on something, or are you looking for some honey on your taco?
Zesty lime.
The correct answer.
Oh, I was
Not
okay.
to influence
Yeah,
you, John.
zesty
sorry.
lime. Yeah, no, I would have totally gone zesty lime all the way. Certainly not.
Okay,
honey.
so once again, why do we have to choose? Why not both? Why not both?
We gotta have both. All right, we know.
So for those, just for context, for those, we have this great restaurant in Durango, my hometown, Durango, Colorado, called Gazpacho's. That is an amazing Taco Tuesday, and they have the somewhat unconventional tradition of you get their taco. They only have one kind of taco on Taco Tuesday. It's a great taco. It's a carne asada, and tradition is that you put honey on it, which is a little unusual, maybe, but it's awesome.
Well, it was my first time having honey, and it was fine. I don't know that I'm going to ask for a lot
Fine.
of. I don't know if I'm going to ask for
Fine.
tacos with honey in Canada here. But what I will
Fine.
say, how about? Okay, this is a different kind of taco question. How about this? Would you prefer tacos on a road trip adventure or tacos on a weekend brunch outing?
Weekend
I have to go with Jeff.
outing.
I have to go with
I mean,
Jeff's
the
answer and go
answer-
both. Both.
Yeah, like the answer to most taco questions is why not both?
Why not both? I've learned both.
The whole look. I'm going to keep putting. All right. Would you rather be eating a taco while you're skydiving, or would you rather be eating a taco when you're bungee jumping? Does anyone start to see where this can go?
Well, if you have to do a taco for one of them, then you might as well pick one of them anyway. So you might as well do both again. One in each hand.
I'm gonna
as
go
you jump.
skydiving. I'm gonna go skydiving. I mean,
Me too.
because it
I
seems.
skydiving,
Did you?
but
I've never done either. I've never
I
done
did
either. But
skydiving.
skydiving
It's
seems
hard
more
pressed to
stable.
win. You could wear a taco skydiving.
I think if you had to
That's a whole other
assemble it,
category.
if you had to assemble it on the way down as well and add the sauce, that would be even funnier, I think. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's 2 minutes for our taco talk. For our
I'm
little
hungry
taco
now.
break. Well, you'll see these taco questions. I think if we keep framing them the right way, we're going to learn some interesting things about people. All right. Well, we are getting close to the end here, so I figure why don't we? Are there any final thoughts that we can bring to people on this topic around artificial intelligence, AI, and digital marketing?
Well, I think for me as a freelancer, I think it's a great opportunity to kind of leverage up your skills, to serve more people, to take away the aspects of your job that you don't like. You can be flexible with this. I think that's the key. I've kind of gone into this is, like I said before, spot the aspects of your business that you don't like doing, spreadsheets, boring stuff, and think, how can I automate this stuff to free up? We talked before about launch life, having the free time when somebody calls you up to say, are you free? And you go, yes. Well, ChatGPT allows you to do that. So instead of saying, are you free? No, I have to put my taxes together in a spreadsheet. Now you can use AI to kind of solve that problem for you. So I would say, don't just blindly follow what other people do or think you can only use it for a certain thing. seriously look at yourself first, your strengths, your weaknesses, what gives you energy, what takes energy away, and think, right, what aspects of my business could I hire out somebody to do, like ChatGPT or an image creator or scheduling software, anything like that, and tailor it to you. You're the one using the tool. The tool doesn't use you. You dictate how the tool works for you. So just take that approach, that mindset.
Yeah, I agree entirely, John. I also think ChatGPT is a wonderful tool for expansion, and a lot of entrepreneurs, particularly digital entrepreneurs, where we're sort of caught in the confines of what we can afford and what we can do. Now, ChatGPT will actually free you up to expand in a way that is true growth, because you can maintain your voice and your expertise and, really, I mean, the sky's the limit with it, seriously. And so I do believe it's got to be personalized, don't go with the generic prompts and things, actually personalized. So you don't only want the results to be in your voice, you want your prompts to be in your voice.
I would say yes to both John and Allison, and I think so. This is something I said. I'm going to quote myself, which I try to avoid. But Allison mentioned this earlier, that this was like a big theme when I did my PLF Live event in early May, and it was that AI is the tool, and your voice is the strategy. So I think AI extends our capabilities. It allows us to get more done more quickly. But at the end of the day, people, especially in this world where most of my clients are in, which is coaching or consulting or teaching or training, that we all have our own individual approach to whatever the work we do is, the training, the teaching, the expertise. We all have our own voice. We all have our own strategies. It's the secret sauce that makes us who we are. And if AI gives us the lever to create more of the underlying structure that allows us to amplify our ability to get our voice out there, then we're going to win. So, and by the way, that hasn't changed since, forever. So I started my first online business in the mid 90s. And for some reason, I struck on this idea that people actually wanted to hear my voice, that they didn't want to hear something that sounded corporate. They wanted to hear something that sounded human, just in my emails. So I wrote my emails like I would write to a friend. And for some reason, I had that instinct early on, and I've leaned into that all along. And there are plenty of people that don't want to hear from me, don't care for me, that my voice completely turns them off. But there's enough that care about my approach. And I think that's the way we all have to be in this market. There's a lot of people that teach entrepreneurship like me. I only need a very small select sliver of them to resonate with me. There's many people that teach guitar or teach meditation or teach tennis or whatever, or help people with their health or help people with their relationships. And you don't have to compete with all of them. You only have to attract your little sliver. It's your voice that matters. It's your voice that will attract people. It's your voice that will compel people to give you money to help for more help. And so I would say, to the extent that AI helps you get the drudgery done so you can focus on getting your voice and sharpening and clarifying what your voice is and reaching your people, then you're going to win.
There has never been a better time, with more resources, with more ability for people to launch and get their voice out into the world, is what I'm hearing from that. And thanks again, Launch family, for listening. We hope this conversation inspires you to dare to launch. On the next episode of Dare to Launch.
I think of Jeff's voice as being kind of like the humble badass, sort of like, you have we're in a market where there's a lot of money going around, and there's a lot of people who can go from, sort of unknown, and then they do a $4 million launch or whatever. And it's like, so we're not targeting the people, for the most part, We're not targeting the people who are, okay, they do the $1 million launch and, they've got all the Instagram clips and they're, rolling up in the brand new Lamborghini and stepping out in the $1,000 sneakers and, kind of flashing like, hey, I'm in this place with this person, I'm in this place with this person. It's the guy who's, walking into the local breakfast joint in a t-shirt and, just kind of sits down, has his cup of coffee, whips out a laptop and writes an email and makes $1 million. It's like that sort of like that understated sort of badass type feel. I think that's who our audience wants to be.